opportunities that I have to engage with my son's teachers or just their staff. So, as Sandro mentioned, I'm Dr. Vaughn Calhoun, and I oversee 7 units. The Center for Academic Success, which is essentially first year advising, student athlete academic advising, career services, the Academic Resource Center, which is tutoring across the campus, ROTC, the Transfer Center, and our Gen 1 program, which is grant funded. And I'll talk a little bit about each one to give you a little bit more flavor of some of the programs that we're doing, initiatives that we're doing. But it's already crazy to think we're at the cusp of fall break, right? And this is just a quick break for our students to help them recharge, decompress before we really get into the heart of the semester. So it's time moves quickly, right? It felt like we just registered many of your students this past June, and here we are already in October. We're already getting Thanksgiving plans ready at my house, which sounds insane. So the Center of Academic Success, that's first year advising, right? And every student who's a freshman comes through my office, starting with summer orientation, where we register your students for all of their classes. And at the same time, they're introduced to their peer advisor. And that's a really unique position here where a peer advisor, we call them PAs, we also call them your first friend on campus. These are students who are upperclassmen who serve in somewhat of a TA type role in all your students' first year experience course, which we call University Life. Essentially, that's a 1-credit course that shows your students how to succeed at Seton Hall. Right, so we talk about registration, we talk about study habits, we talk about time management. We introduce them to various concepts: diversity, equity, inclusion, community services, and really connect them all across campus. Right, so we want to be sure that they know where they need to go if they need something. And really, we all need something at some point in time. And really, we're also embarking on a new academic advising model. Without getting so far into the weeds, this is something we started about 2 years ago, which all of your students, they get a first year advisor, a faculty advisor, and career advisor that follows them throughout their time at Seton Hall. And like for myself, when I was in college, I never met my career advisor till spring semester senior year. We want to flip that dynamic to where they get to meet their career advisor on day one and have that person follow them for the 4 years to build that relationship. But I'll speak on that a little bit more in just a couple of minutes. So right now, the Center of Academic Success, we're working on advising meetings, not to talk about academics per se, about more relational meeting, right? How are you doing? How's your first semester going? Where are some of the gaps, the problems, the issues? Where are you winning at? And that's just to build those relationships. And then in the first week of November, we start to register your students for the spring semester, right? So now they're going to pick their classes and what they'll be taking starting in January. So that's the Center for Academic Success. Then I have Student Athlete Academic Advising, which is very similar to the Center for Academic Success, but their focus is on all student athletes. This is near and dear to my heart as well, because I was a former college football player at Rutgers. I'm wearing my red tie. I sometimes get a little flack for wearing a red tie, but I am who I am, right? And the Student Athlete Academic Advisors, they do the same things in terms of registrations and check-ins, but they stay with their student athletes all 4 years as well. Next, our Career Center, right? This might be different from what you may have experienced, and some of just the general stigmas out there. We're just not doing resumes. We're just not doing cover letters, though we still do that. But that's not the only thing we do. We want to build relationships with your students, getting to know them and building relationships with industry, right? And throughout the entire year. We host several events each semester, from a career fair. We just had one last month. We had 110 employers show up. To monthly events. We have upcoming what we call our Law School Confidential, how to get into law school. Earlier this week, we did an FBI field office visit. In a couple of weeks, we're going to do a sports media and marketing networking forum, right? So, we want to find ways to keep them engaged and expose them to various industries out there. And also a cool thing too, we are starting what we call our Pirate Closet, essentially a career closet in partnership with Burns and Coat Factory. So this is the space on campus in the Career Center where students who might not have business attire, or they left it at home, they can go to the Career Center and pick out a blazer, a blouse, a dress shirt, a tie. This is just what I consider just a great value add, right? So we're trying to, and we are doing things to really make sure that your students have everything they need to be successful. And then that also goes to my next unit in my portfolio is the Academic Resource Center. This is tutoring across the institution, right? And this consists of one-on-one tutoring, academic coaching, which is slightly different. So instead of talking about a particular course topic, we're more so talking about study skills, study habits, time management. Then we have what we call supplemental instructions, sometimes referred to as SI. This here is where we have a student who is an upper class student who's received high marks in a class, provide tutoring sessions for students in lower sessions. And then we also provide a great benefit called tutors in residence. So tutors who hold office hours in the dormitories, outside of regular tutoring hours. And then we're also exploring this really cool platform called tutor.com. It's 24/7 access to tutors. So if one of your students, if your child is struggling with geometry, all right, at 2 o'clock in the morning, that's when they study, but our tutoring center is closed, they can hop online and talk to a tutor, which I think is a great value add. And just a couple more pieces here. We have what we call our first gen program. So for students who are first generation, meaning mom, dad didn't go to college, they face a usually different experience of just knowing how to go to college, and sometimes you don't know what you don't know until someone tells you. So we figured, why don't we tell them? So we applied for and we were awarded a state grant through the state of New Jersey Opportunity Meets Innovation, $750,000, where we were able to find a director, as well as provide tutoring, advising, mentoring, supplemental instruction, and even some financial support. And really the goal of this here is to ensure our first generation students have a clear sense of belonging, as well as understanding of the skills that they need to be successful at college. And then just the last two, I know I'm talking a lot. My wife says I talk too much. The Transfer Center. So for students who are not freshmen, but are transferring into Seton Hall, this is the space in which we provide. So they feel that they are part of the institution, that they have a sense of direction, where to go, who to talk to, and all the resources that they need. Sometimes transfer students feel, because I'm not a freshman, I don't get as much support. I don't get as much fanfare. So we wanted to, again, change that dynamic to make sure that they also feel supported, that they can be successful. And then my last unit is ROTC. And that's kind of like the oddball over here, but also kind of near dear to my heart, as my father retired 25 years from the U.S. Army as a first sergeant. So being able to have some familiarity and conversations with the director of ROTC, which is a fantastic individual. He came from the Pentagon and was also a West Point instructor as well. So very knowledgeable. And here at Seton Hall, we don't just house our ROTC. We are the hub for 23 other colleges in North Jersey to come train at our campus for their physical fitness. And every year our goal, which is given by the Army, is to graduate 16 second lieutenants, one of which being a nurse every year, just because there's just a shortage of those in the healthcare field. So that's my story. I'm sticking to it. I'll take questions, comments, concerns, or I will let Serge go and we can answer questions at the end.
Yeah, we'll do that. We'll let Sergio go, and we'll give our parents an opportunity to ask any questions. And if you have any questions, feel free to add them into the chat or raise your hand if there's anything that you hear from Sergio and Vaughn as well. So thank you.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome. Again, my name is Sergio Oliva. I'm the interim director for the Department of Public Safety. I too have two of my children graduated from Seton Hall, one the class of 2020 and 2021. So I understand what you're going through from start to end. They had a great experience here, and they were a resident for the first 2 years. So, and I think that's important if they have that opportunity. My department oversees the Office of Emergency Management, fire safety systems, parking services, and campus ID. Our critical incident management plan is created and directed through Office of Emergency Management, which also we run the Pirate Alert system, which I'm not sure if you're familiar with. In the event of an emergency, students, community members will be notified through text, voice, what we call Alertus, what we call a computer override system. As long as you have a university issued computer, if the Alertus message was to go out, it would override the screen. So you'd have to have a university issued computer and on the university's network. Also, we have the siren on campus for the event of an emergency. In regard to fire safety systems, all the fire intrusion alarms are through that department. Parking services manages the transportation services, which that's usually a popular question at many of the orientations. Basically, we have two transportation services. We have a jitney type service, which runs 7 days a week from 6 a.m. to 3 a.m. And it's basically on a fixed route. Shoot Fly starts at 5 p.m. till 3 a.m. And it's kind of an on-demand, kind of like an Uber type service. That takes you anywhere within a certain area that's not on the route. So we understand that there's students that may study late or visit other students that are within the surrounding area. Now, what I'll do is I'll drop on the chat session the zone. So with that said is we only Shoot Fly only services a certain area. So that's important for anybody who's going to be residing or looking for housing outside of campus. Because as long as you're within that zone, you're entitled to the service. And obviously both services are at no cost. Card ID manages the meal program as well as access control, like printing and such. Other than that, we are a 24/7 organization. We have a central dispatch system. We are non-law enforcement. However, most of my senior staff make up our retired law enforcement officers. During the academic year, we do contract with the South Orange Police Department, so they're here on campus during the academic year. We have a great relationship with, because of the fire safety systems, the fire department. And other than that, we do patrol the campus. Off campus, we have a patrol, the surrounding area. We patrol the campus, bike and vehicle, as well as foot patrol, 24/7. We're first responders, so any medical emergencies, we're the first ones to respond as long as it goes through our system. And Sandra had mentioned the blue light phone. We have probably approximately, I'd have to say, about 80-something blue light phones through campus. I mean, years ago, before pre-cell, and I've been here, I'm going on 21 years, cellular phone usage wasn't, it was just the beginning. So these blue light phones that are scattered through campus, and again, I'll drop it in the chat session where they're located. We're pretty much the first, if a student felt unsafe, walking from one end of campus to a class or to a resident hall, they'd hit the buttons. There's two buttons. One is non-emergency, one's emergency. So we would provide an escort. We do jump starts, we do lockouts, we don't change tires, and we don't, fill empty tanks. But Other than that, we're very responsive. So if there's any questions that I may have not hit, feel free. And that's
Sergio,
it
there
for-
was a question in the chat in regards to Safe Ride. Does that service the South Orange train station? I believe it does, but if you want to,
Safe Ride doesn't, but Shoe Fly does.
Shoe Fly does. Okay, sorry.
Right.
Okay.
Safe Ride is really, its purpose is to fill in the gaps where Shoe Fly wouldn't be able to. So if there's people living in the local streets, in fact, let me drop the zone so everybody could see it. Okay, if you could see the map. So that's important, is knowing the zone, because if your student is not going to be a resident on the campus and you want to utilize the service, knowing the zone so you can look, we would certainly provide that service within the zone. And both these programs are app driven, so at any given time you would know the location and as far as request ride. So it's really, the earlier years of this program, it was pretty much called dispatch. We'd send somebody, but now we've kind of gotten up to speed and automated it, and just, you'd put in the request and then the driver would be on his way.
And Sergio, if I'm not mistaken, there's also part of the there's an app called Tap Ride that our students can download as well. That
Yes.
gives
So
them
what I'll do is I'll drop that in. Yes, Tap Ride is the app for Safe Ride. And then Shoe Fly has its own, and what I'll do is I'll put parking services. What we're hoping is future technology, because the same companies they're two separate companies, so it's two separate apps, but they have consolidated. So we're hoping by next semester that both functions will be on one app, make it, much more convenient than jumping on one app to another. So I'll pull that up. Some of the programming that public safety offers that I mentioned is under Office of Emergency Management. We do have a FEMA back program called CERT. Most townships offer it. It's basically, it's a 20-hour course. It's voluntary. We go over things like disaster preparedness, medical operations, disaster psychology. It's really a great program. And it's something that at the end of completing the course, you're issued a basic equipment from FEMA. And the beauty of that is, most townships, and I'm sure some of you are familiar, it is a federal program that you can kind of, register within your township. The Women's Self-Defense Program that we offer, we've been offering it since 2004. It is a nationally recognized program. Really the philosophy behind the program is 90% of self-defense is, up here. It's when you resort to the remaining 10% for whatever reason, is physical defense. So it's a 12-hour program, no cost. We will have the first class in a long time, a couple of years because of COVID, this October. We typically open it up to, there's been times we had classes that a sister can attend, or even a mother, which is great. So at least the parent can have a first experience of the program. It's very popular, and a lot of it is risk awareness. We talk about things within the surrounding area, things to be concerned, and being aware of your surroundings is really the premise of the program.
Thank you, Vaughn and Sergio. This might be a great opportunity for any parents that have questions. I know there was a question in the chat from Brenda, and I know, Vaughn, you shared this, but this might be something I think all of us are experiencing with our students, that the transition from high school to college is a big one. And so you might have some students that are struggling in these first month of their fall semester. And so I know Brenda asked, my son is a freshman and struggling with the transition. Who can he reach out to help him? And should he go directly to his peer advisor? Vaughn, I know you shared a little bit about that, but if you want to kind of share some other tips and advice to our parents.
Yeah, the transition to college, it's not a science, right? Yeah, you can have like the most high performing student who struggles, right? And then coming out of emerging from COVID too, right? Just being back with other people in close proximity. It's somewhat new for everybody again, right? Just readjusting to the world again. But if his struggles are academic, I suggest reaching out first to his student success advisor. His student success advisor, that is your first year advisor, the individual who helps you register for courses and serves as almost a hub of resources of where to go across campus. Sometimes students might feel more comfortable talking with their peer advisor because they want to talk to someone within their age groups who might have had a similar experience. So I don't think it's a singular person. I think it could be multiple individuals. And I also recommend, again, if it's academic driven, visit the Academic Resource Center, which is our tutoring across campus. There's this stigma sometimes that if I need tutoring, there's something wrong with me. I'm not as smart, right? And what we're trying to do is break that, right? To say tutoring is for everybody, whether you think you need it or you don't think you need it. Because one of the worst things, I won't say the worst things, but I advise not to do is wait until after you get a bad test score. You wait until now it's November, December. It might be a little difficult to pull yourself up. So visit as soon as you can, even if it's just to say, hey, these are some, of course, some of the things I'm thinking, and to get to know some of who these tutors are, because it can only help. It can't hurt.
Yeah, definitely. I know personally, I know my daughter has shared with me the University Life course has been very helpful in transitioning from high school to college. Do you want to share a little bit about that as well? I mean, I think it's a tremendous course that I know it's some of them are taught by our peer advisors and also academic advisors as well.
Right. So our University Life course, also known as U-Life, think of your first year seminar, right? This is like a first year seminar course, or even if you think back to when you were in high school or even middle school, you had a homeroom, right? So this is like your homeroom course, which your student success advisor, your first year advisor, is the instructor. And then you have a peer advisor who acts as the TA. So you have two individuals in the classroom to help guide your students. Now, this course is a 1-credit course that all incoming freshmen take. And in this course, it's really about how can you be successful at Seton Hall. So we talk about registration, we talk about study skills, time management. We even talk about goal setting, vision boards, and even how to register for your spring semester course. And we bring in folks from across the institution, library services, folks on campus inclusion, our campus ministers, to all share about the great things that they're doing and the resources that they have, which our students can actually utilize and really participate in. So this is an all-encompassing course to say, hey, whatever you need, this is where you can go within Seton Hall. So, it's a great value add for them.
Thank you, Vaughn. Sergio, this might be a question for you. And I've heard some rumors in regards to when the University Center renovations will be completed and when it'll be actually open, which we're all excited about. And I don't know if there's any information we can share about it, but
I give you the unofficial or the official.
Either or, whichever one you feel most comfortable sharing.
Right. And Vaughn, correct me if I'm right. The unofficial, the soft opening, I believe, is going to be in late November, because when we do the Christmas kickoff, it's the soft opening. But I believe should be ready to go the first semester, spring semester.
Yeah.
But something I wanted to add on a separate note, because it's also a common question I'm asked, is parking for freshmen. If you're a commuter, there's parking. Unfortunately, if you're a resident, there's no parking. Basically, you have to be a 90-credit senior. Now, there are exceptions if you're in the nursing program major, because, going to IHS, or if you've got, we do make, if there's hardship exceptions as well. If you have a internship, all right, things like that, yes. But or ROTC, depending, we do have but for the most part, 90 credit senior. So I just really please relay that message, because a lot of times I have parents call me saying my son's got $400 or $500 that's at the bursar's office because he's came into campus, and yes, unfortunately, he'll be issued a summons. So, you know, in the end, I know as parents, we're the ones paying those fees. So to avoid that, please, I know it's kind of bittersweet because you're a senior in high school, you just pretty much, you got your license, you're driving, guess what? You're going somewhere for 4 years, and it's back to, you know, not having a car for 3 years. And that's part of, you know, the transportation services that we do provide. I mean, pretty much if any of you had a chance to visit South Orange, there's a lot of stuff going on. They got a performing arts center, a theater, all kinds of great places to eat. And then you got the train station. You go on the shoe flight, takes you into the city or the various parts. And also, as I had mentioned, Safe Ride that takes you in between if somebody wants to visit their friend. I know someone put in the chat session, if you are out of the zone and you try to request a ride, it just won't show. So that's really important to know. And I apologize if I keep driving that home, but it's typically the questions that are asked at the beginning of semester.
Thank you, Sergio. If any of the parents that are on this call, feel free to unmute yourself if you have any questions. This is the opportunity to do so. I know I get a lot of questions, Vaughn, in regards to especially career services, especially for freshman students. Are they able to even apply for internships at this point? I know I had some parents asking about the career fair that just recently passed. Can my student attend? If you want to share some light about that.
Absolutely. We encourage your students to visit the Career Center day one. So every freshman is assigned a career advisor, right? So, you know, when they log into that we call it our Compass platform, this informs them of who their advisors are, even, you know, course progress. They can see on the right-hand pane who all their advisors are. First year advisor, faculty advisor, career center advisor. And we highly encourage them to go reach out. Now, at the same time, our career advisors also reach out to our students. We have several events throughout the semester where we just randomly pop up on what we call our green, which is our quad, just for any walk-ins who want to just have conversations. And another really cool thing we were doing, because our career center is kind of tucked away, we want to make sure that location isn't prohibitive. So we now have pop-up hours within different buildings across the campus regularly throughout the academic year. So we want to make sure that we're visible. We want to make sure that there's conversations had. And to answer your other question, yes, you can absolutely attend a career fair as a freshman. Sometimes, you know, you might not feel that you're ready or you don't even know what you want to do, but just to be in the atmosphere, to hear some of the questions, the conversations, what it feels like, what does it look like, it's always a value added. So I think it's a tremendous opportunity that they can just come, observe, and watch, and as well as, you know, make sure that they go make an appointment with their career advisor just to have the conversation. Also, for those who are thinking about changing their major as well. So let's say if you're a nursing student or, you know, a psychology student, you're like, hey, you know, I'm really thinking business. We can explore what that looks like. We can then explore also what that might mean for your academics and how your schedule and your courses will have to shift to see if this is something that makes sense or maybe not. But again, have conversations, reach out, connect, and talk.
Thank you, Vaughn. Any questions from our parents? Feel free to unmute yourself or share in the chat. I know you have questions. I get them all the time. Well, this is another question for you, Vaughn. In regards to the peer advisors, how do you select these peer advisors? I know it's such an important job of having upperclassmen be mentors to freshmen, but how do you select these peer advisors? I've always been curious, and is there, I'd imagine it's a very competitive interview process.
Correct. So, peer advisors, they are like, I want to call them like super students on campus, meaning that they're super engaged and involved. It's almost strange to me because when I was an undergrad, I was nothing like that, right? To want to, speak in public, to want to help others in a way that is really intimate, right? So you're really working with the students. I was like, I'm just trying to figure out life myself, right? So what we do is you have to have a certain GPA after your freshman year. We hold multiple info sessions throughout the fall semester. And then in the spring, you have to apply. And then there is a two-step interview process. So we really want to make sure that they understand what this is because it is a huge commitment, right? Not only through the academic year, but also in the summertime in preparation for the academic year. And once you go through the process, then there's multiple trainings. Most happen in the summer, but also like upkeep training, maintenance throughout the academic year. So we really invest into this because it does help the students. It does help with retention. It does help just with your student experience, right? So I've been at 7 other institutions and I've never seen a program this in depth. And it speaks to the values and the goals of Seton Hall to really make sure your students have a tremendous experience.
Thank you, Vaughn. And I guess the other question, just as a follow-up to the peer advisors, how do you know that the peer advisors are actually connecting with students? Is that something that they report back to you, to their advisors? Because I think that's right, because it's really up to the student to really connect with their peer advisors. And usually that's not always the case. And I'm just talking personally. I know with my daughter, I'm like, have you connected with your peer advisor? Because I'm getting all the questions about where's Corrigan Hall. I'm like, connect with your peer advisor. I can tell you where, but have you had that conversation?
Right.
So are you tracking that? Because I mean, you could have that peer advisor there, but it's usually up to the students to actually utilize this wonderful services and these amazing students, right?
So all the peer advisors, they are in the class in the first in the University Life course. So they are there every single class and helping with instructions, providing presentations, and being a support to the instructor. And we also have a second level of peer advisors. We call them peer coordinators, right? So these are the individuals who are like the most senior with the most experience who then can help train the newer peer advisors, right? So we're in constant communication of how can we make this thing better? And really, it's about how do we engage, how do we be transparent, and how can we make it so that students feel comfortable coming to us, right? But like I said before, I've never seen a program this in depth, right? You might get like a buddy in the summertime. You might get a buddy in the fall semester at other institutions, but this year is intentional. This is your person from the summertime all the way through your first year. But just like all things too, it takes 2 people to make a relationship happen, right? So please encourage your student to just get involved, right? And that's one of the things about having a great experience is you don't want to be an island to yourself. You want to make sure you get involved in something, right? Whether it's drama club, fraternity, sorority life, whether it's just playing basketball, during lunchtime somewhere, right? Connect.
Thank you, Vaughn. I'm sorry, I'd have to add that is important. And I'm just going by the experience my kids had here. They took advantage of the Career Center, which I think is key. I mean, it's out there for them. I can't stress how, these things Vaughn are mentioning that my kids went through. In fact, I was happy that when they graduated, because of the internships, they were employed, already signing their contracts in March and starting in June. I mean, really, that's a big part of, when our kids are going through college, that, once they graduate, they're out and about doing what they went to school for. I mean, that's key, and then we become empty nesters, which that's also key for us, but that's definitely important is those internships. I mean, and especially when you're starting from freshman, because a lot of times they say, oh, I'll wait till my junior year. and start doing internships, but they're missing out on programs that certain organizations start much earlier. So I can't vouch for those things that Von's gone over with greatly.
Yeah. I have to second that as well. I know my 10 years in working with students and families, those internships are crucial. I mean, they become job offers for the most part. And so it's crucial that you talk to your students about the wonderful services that the Career Center does provide, because it definitely helps them. And I'd imagine top concern for a lot of these students is what's going to happen after Seton Hall. And I can tell you the Career Center gives them a pathway, at least a pathway to understand that these are some of the opportunities that are available for internships. And I think one of the great things is that our alumni network and also our parents have been instrumental in providing those opportunities, those internship opportunities, providing career advice, mentors. So if any of you parents that are on this call, if you're interested in helping the Career Center, which is something that our parents have played a major role in that as well, feel free to contact us as well. So Sergio, I do have a question for you. You mentioned you've been here 21 years in this role in public safety and security. What keeps you up at night? I'd imagine there's a lot of things that's going on, but just a couple of things that's concerning for you that you could share to our parents in regards to just advice in making. Because I know for me, even though I'm on campus and going home, but just understanding that safety is definitely a concern for our parents, especially those parents that parents that are in California, that are out of state. That's always a concern. And I know one of the reasons why a lot of the parents were fine with their students coming to Seton Hall is because it is a gated community, the sense of community, the South Orange Village. But what in regards to what keeps you up at night and what kind of advice you can share with our parents.
It really becomes to, I mean, look, as adolescents, it's a learning process. We're going to make mistakes and stuff. And probably the biggest thing is risk awareness. I'm one of the senior instructors for the, I'll just do a quick story with the women's self-defense program. Years ago, before the current Safe Ride program was called CASE, it was Campus Area Security Transportation, and it was a one-way transportation. So look, we understand there's off-campus, parties. I know none of your kids are going to be attending those, so we're okay there. But for the ones that will, I would open my class saying, I would ask each of the female students to put what they're worth. And, they'd kind of look at me foolishly and say, well, what kind of questions? I said, just give me an idea of what you think you're worth. And I'd get, of course, there's no dollar value, millions and stuff. And I would end with saying, okay, knowing that we're providing you a one-way transportation service, we found that a lot of the students, that some of them became victims, is they had no game plan how to get back. Or they may have had $20 in their pocket that they felt they wouldn't spend because it was a lot of money. So when you kind of have that mentality of, well, wait a minute, so you're telling me you're not worth the $20 in your purse or worth the time to think, hey, you know what, I want to make sure I get back safely. So luckily the program does, now as we take them back, is to really take advantage of, the services we offer. And we always stress, if you're going to areas that you're unfamiliar with, go with friends. If you have no choice. I mean, the beauty now is where I found there's been a downtick on our service because, we have 3 vehicles that are pretty much nonstop that are providing this service. And sometimes students are not patient, and I get that. And they start either choosing to walk home or, luckily for the ones that they're going to do the Uber or any of the rideshare programs to get back to campus. So it's really just, it comes down to just being, especially late night, especially if you're, if you go out drinking or whatever, that your guard is down. And these are some real life things. Now, South Orange, surrounding areas is safe, but like anything else, I mean, you could be in New York City, go 1 block and it's, it's a different world. And that's probably my biggest thing is when students don't take advantage of the system. you know, many times we'll get students that they know the schedule, but they'll call us. And we do make exceptions. If we realize, okay, you know, the program ends at 3, but okay, this is a one-time deal. We'll go and pick you up at 4 within the area. But, you know, you have to make those arrangements. I mean, granted, if you're in New York City and you miss the train or the bus, you think by yelling and screaming and saying, hey, I missed my bus, that they're not even going to think twice. So, I mean, coming here is basically, or any university, it's preparing for your future, not just academically, but everything else that goes in between. So, you know the services, plan accordingly. And I know as parents, we all have the same conversations with our kids, but you know, when they all of a sudden when they leave us, it's like, wait a minute, that doesn't sound like my daughter, my son. So I can't stress that amount that they know the services that we provide, especially transportation services. And obviously, you know, on campus, you know, if they do feel unsafe, look, you know, everybody's different. So there's no shame in saying, look, I parked in one end of the parking lot, even though we're a gated community. Yes, we are a safe community. But if you feel uncomfortable and want us to pick you up and bring you to class, hey, that's something we do. And we'll be more than happy to do it.
Thank you, Sergio. I see that there's the raised hand. Samuel Caldwell, if you want to unmute yourself and.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. And thank you very much for holding this session this morning. Question is for a transfer student. It's my son's first semester on campus. Just trying to identify if there are some things that perhaps have been identified as either best practices or some like really go-to resources for transfer students who, because they're not first year, first time students, they may think that, you know, they've kind of been there, done that, having experienced that. However, they're at a different institution, perhaps a different cadence to the way things are done there, and really just trying to position students for success whose experience is that of transfers.
Right. I want to say that it's important, particularly if your student is a junior, to connect with the faculty advisor. The faculty advisor acts as a individual who can help with the course registration, but also in a mentoring capacity to say, okay, this is where you're at, but where do you want to go? So that's important to connect with that advisor. Secondly, again, going back to the previous conversation, connect with the career advisor to really see, okay, am I engaging in the right opportunities? Meaning, there's certain majors, for example, finance. There's this track in which you need to apply for internships at a particular point in the cycle. If you miss the cycle, you miss out. And getting into those particular companies. So just being aware, because sometimes you don't know what you don't know until someone tells you and it's too late. So, you know, again, connecting, communicating. And then also we have the transfer center here on campus. Again, another resource in which this individual can help point you to all the people you should be talking to. So we have what your student needs, is just making sure you can encourage a student to come reach out, especially if your student feels that, you know, they're struggling, they don't know what to do. The worst thing, like I said before, is to be an island to yourself, because we do want to help, but sometimes we can't help unless we know someone needs help.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Absolutely.
Thank you for the question. Any other questions from our parents? Feel free to unmute yourself or share in the chat. I know there was a question in regards to paying jobs at the athletic center, and I think that's more work study, right, Vaughn, if I'm not mistaken, or Serge, for the most part. So that might be something. I'll try to find a link to work study. But there's a wonderful woman there, Kathleen Mata, who's just a wonderful resource, who can maybe share a little bit about work study at the recreational center. But that's one of the prime jobs, I think, on campus as well. So, but work study, there's a lot of opportunities on campus for work for our students.
Yeah, don't count us out. We usually have work study positions and parking services and
great,
card
yeah.
ID.
Yeah.
So, and I believe I don't know where they usually post the positions, but typically there's a posting where the students can go online and see what's available.
All right. And then there's maybe Vaughn, you could share a little bit. We have this wonderful platform that I think we instituted within Seton Hall. It's called Engage, especially for transfer students, but all freshman students in regards to all the different events that are being hosted by our student organizations and clubs. It's a great platform, and it's just all the events that are going on, and then there's a lot. So for your student to say that there's nothing to do, you have to question them on that, because the other thing I just downloaded Shoe Mobile, which is the app, and it's a great resource. I mean, you just look at the calendar of events for today, and it's a long scroll of all the things that are going on campus as well. So I just want to reiterate what Vaughn mentioned in regards to being engaged and involved. It helps with them feeling a sense of community and connection to the university, and of course, right, and their happiness and well-being and their mental health. So, and they're connecting, right? They're meeting friends through these organizations and clubs. So definitely ask them, are they being engaged with Engage? It's a great platform. I highly recommend it for your students just to take a look at and see what's going on campus. I just want to make sure that there are any other questions or concerns that our parents might have in regards to what Vaughn and Sergio have covered today.
Yeah, I just dropped in the group chat the process for Office of Student Employment. So
Awesome.
if anybody wants to click on that. And I believe next week, just to give SBA a plug, we're going to have one of the actors kind of just guest speak. He's one of the Stranger Things actors. I think one of them has the curly hair. I don't know the names. I'd have to ask my kids. But yes, they got all kinds of great events going on. We have University Day again. I'm giving another plug too. That's going to be this weekend. So yeah, university has a lot of things going on. So even my kids say there's nothing going on. It's like, yeah, sure. But there is.
I see that there's another question maybe in the chat here. And it's a question from Brenda. Can you please repeat where my son can find a list of daily events to help him become more engaged? Sure, definitely. I'll add the link to the Engage platform. Also on our website, the events calendar, there's a listing of all the things that are going on. So you can go actually into our website, look at events, and you can see for yourself all the different things that are going on. I do that all the time, and maybe I don't think my daughter's probably tired of me sending her a text about, hey, I saw this event that's going on, you should attend. But all you can do right now is just share information with them, and hopefully they'll take advantage of what's being offered. But I'll include that link to the Engage platform. But I highly recommend that you download Shoot Mobile app, which I'll also add the link to. It's in the App Store, I think the Google app too, and it's free. And it's just a wonderful resource. It has information about everything under the sun about Seton Hall, but also to include some more information about what Sergio mentioned about Seton Hall Weekend, which is next weekend, October 14th through Sunday, October 16th. If you haven't registered, please register. I mean, there's events that are going on Friday. We have a welcome mix and mingle breakfast with Dr. Monica Burnett, who's the Vice President of Student Services. So an opportunity for you to ask any other questions about the wonderful division at Student Services. And right after that breakfast, we are going to have a resource fair with all the wonderful folks from Student Services. So another opportunity for you to ask questions, get information about all the things that they're providing your students to be successful here at Seton Hall. And then right after that, we have a wonderful lunch and learn with all our deans from all the different schools and colleges. And I don't know if we've had them all in one room in a long time, especially because some of our deans are at the IHS campus at Nutley. So it's great that they are here in attendance next week, next Friday. I highly recommend you attend that event, just because they're going to share all the wonderful things that they're doing at their schools and colleges. And then again, another opportunity for you to connect and ask any questions as well. But again, yeah, there's a lot of information that we provide to your students for them to be successful. It's just for you to ask those questions. Make sure that they are taking advantage of all the wonderful resources that are available. But I want to thank my wonderful colleagues, Vaughn Calhoun and Sergio Oliva, for their leadership within their divisions and spending some time today to provide some input and advice and information to our wonderful parents in our first virtual coffee and conversation. But again, thank you. And if you have any final words you both want to share with our parents, feel free to share whatever you like.
Just thank you for being here. Thank you for being involved. Thank you for caring. Thank you for asking questions. You know, I look at it as this is a partnership, right? The more we can partner with each other, have communications with each other, you know, and help get your students to where they want to get to, you know, it's a win-win. So, you know, all my information, I'll drop it in the chat. If you ever just want to reach out, please feel free. And other than that, I appreciate each and every one of you.
Yes, I
Thank you,
concur
Bobby.
as well. You know, thank you for everyone who's showed up to, you know, take the time, because, you know, a lot of times we're kind of like the Maytag man, you know, people don't come up to our desk unless something happened. I mean, our department tends to, you know, we tend to think of ourselves being proactive, not just reactive. So I'll drop our department's information as well. And you know what, if for those out-of-staters or those interstaters come by, you can always come by my office and, you know, we can talk.
Yeah, thank you. All right. Just well, thank you again for everyone joining this coffee and conversation. If you have any other questions that you probably comes up later in the day, feel free to email me or Vaughn or Sergio, as they provided their emails as well. We are having another session of our coffee and conversation 2 weeks from today, on the 21st, with our wonderful Dean, Winston Roberts. So feel free to, if you haven't registered for that, I highly recommend that too. He oversees a lot of great departments within, you know, within student services. I'll share that information as well. And then we have 2 more after that, with Dean Karen Van Norman and also Dean Majid Whitney. So I highly recommend you attend those coffee and conversations as well. Just great information that helps you provide advice to your students. I'm also hosting next week an information session on how to get involved as parents. There is a wonderful way for you to be a part of our parent programming. So feel free to register for that. I'll send some information on that. But again, we look forward to seeing you hopefully next weekend at Seton Hall Weekend. It's going to be a wonderful, wonderful activities through Friday through Sunday. So if you haven't registered, I highly recommend you do. If you've never been to Seton Hall Weekend, it's just a great opportunity for you to connect with your students, and also connect with other parents and our wonderful administrators and faculty that are on campus that whole weekend. So again, thank you again for attending. Have a great weekend. Be safe. Enjoy the beautiful weather from wherever you are at, and go Pirates. Take care, everyone. Thank you.
Yeah.
Take care, everyone.